her one flawed line of reasoning, Senator John McCain, as the presumptive Republican nominee, can coast towards the center and court independent voters. The conservative base in his own party will necessarily fall in line. But what if they don't? In our fourth story on the countdown, a slew of key conservatives, including one of the loudest and thus one of the most listened to, today saying they don't. This in the odd context of the candidate himself beginning the process of choosing a running mate. A chorus of conservatives expressing their frustration in interviews with the Wall Street Journal, like Alfred Regnery, publisher of American Spectator magazine. Quoting him, "I hear a good deal of rumbling from conservatives about McCain. Others not even that generous. In particular, James Dobson from Focus on the Family, quoting, I have seen no evidence that John McCain is successfully unifying the Republican Party or drawing conservatives into his fold. To the contrary, he seems intent on driving them away, fracturing an increasingly divided constituency. McCain needs to talk more about core values, according to Tony Perkins, president of the so-called Family Research Council. And David Keene, president of the American Conservative Union, says that McCain, quote, hasn't really made conservatives believe they're involved in a common enterprise. He sort of reaches out to conservatives on Monday and evidently feels bad about it and slaps them on Tuesday. But McCain's merry way includes no apparent concern about conservative support. Asked directly about that by David Letterman last night.
I'm proud to be a Republican in the Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan tradition, and I'm proud of that, and I'll present those credentials to the American people. If you're just going to have people who disagree with you, I respect those disagreements.
President Roosevelt has just sent him a telegram from wherever he is right now. Meanwhile, McCain said this morning in a radio interview that he's begun compiling a list of vice presidential running mates, but he reportedly startled his aides when he said, quote, I'm aware of the enhanced importance of this issue because of my age. Let's bring in Air America radio host and MSNBC political analyst Rachel Maddow, who dealt with this issue of increase in age yesterday on her birthday. Rachel, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Sorry about that. Let's talk about this wondrous gift to Senators Clinton and Obama from Dr. Dobson, this reminder that whenever the Democrats are ready to go after McCain, the conservatives are too.
Yeah, I mean, if we take Dobson at face value, this seems great for Democratic chances of defeating McCain, but I don't think we should take Dobson at face value. I don't think there's any risk that Dobson is really not going to support John McCain. He's not going to support a Democratic opponent to a Republican presidential candidate. So I think what he's trying to do here is he's trying to get his way on policy issues. He's trying to nudge John McCain, saying, you know, I will make sure that the base is not enthused for you, that you're not able to turn out religious right voters unless you start saying more of the things that we're used to hearing from candidates at this point in the campaign. I think he's trying to win some concessions on things like stem cell research and some of the other issues that Dobson likes to campaign on. So we'll have to see how McCain responds to this, but I think Dobson's just trying to get as much as he can out of McCain before he inevitably decides to support him.
But as we know from Mr. Kuo's revelations, no pun intended, about the religious rights reaction to how they were treated by the Bush administration, does McCain believe, like Bush, that he can fool all of the conservatives, especially the religious right, all of the time?
The hallmark of Bush Rove Republicanism in terms of dealing with the religious right is that they kind of poke the beast and they run every election cycle as if the whole election is about issues those voters care about. They run as if their whole purpose for their campaign is to get abortion banned or to make gay people's lives miserable or whatever it is they think they can get people excited about. And then once they're in office, they retire those issues until they need to trot them back out for the next election cycle. And we know from David Kuo's book, you're right, and from other sources that the religious right is, you know, they're not dumb. They know this is happening. They know they're being used. The problem is that even if the rank and file know they're being used and they're getting resentful about it, people like Dobson, people like Pat Robertson, people like the Tony Perkinses of the world, these so-called leaders, this is a great system for them. They get fed monetarily and in terms of attention and in terms of the sort of kingmaker attention that they get paid to them every 2 years, and they love it. This system's worked very well for them. So as long as we only ask the leaders, I think they'll hope they get the same treatment from John McCain that they got from George W.
But does this reaction that we're seeing today, does this tie into this other story about him looking at this list, supposedly including all names known to man, for running mate? Does the running mate have to be from the lunatic fringe to silence the lunatic fringe and engage them?
he'll get the lunatic fringe no matter what he does. I mean, James Dobson is trying to make it seem like that's somehow in doubt and McCain has to work for it, but they'll support him regardless in the end. And Dobson would love to make it seem like McCain had to choose a Christian conservative as his running mate. But McCain's got a lot of other options in terms of that choice as well. He could pick Condoleezza Rice, or he could pick a retired military officer if he really wanted to go with the war, with the war president angle that he's been pushing so hard. He could pick a member of the Cheney family. He could pick Jeb if he really wanted to go whole hog with the Bush third term idea. He has a lot of different options in terms of what constituencies he wants to assuage and what message about his candidacy he wants to promote. And I think Dobson's only one small part of that.
Jeb, the other white Bush.
Yeah.
What about McCain bringing up the issue of age? Reminding people not just of the serious, sober discussions of a man in his 70s running for the presidency, the life-death question, but when you bring up the age thing, you bring up the age-related infirmity question, don't you?
That's right. And we've talked about this before. In my initial analysis of McCain reminding people of how old he is, and he's been doing a lot of it. I remember Pearl Harbor. I was the class of 1954 when he took a trip to his high school. He's been doing that, and I've seen that as a sign that he doesn't have strong Democratic opposition and that he's just running a flabby campaign. But now I wonder, because he's doing it so frequently, I wonder if he's trying to lay the groundwork for announcing that he's only going to run for one term, that he only intends to serve one term as president. That would be a very bold thing to do, but it's possible.
Yeah, I heard the same thing, asked questions about it, and was told nobody could ever run for president on that because there's no check and balance then, that the whole essence, the only way you can restrain a president is that he's going to try to run for re-election.
But at the same time, what else explains why he keeps bringing this up over and over again?
The conservative Grover Norquist says the process of McCain unifying the party is still happening. Dobson said the plan is to go let the right go its own way while McCain attracts moderates and crossover Democrats. Those would seem to be two different plans. Is there no coordination between these guys?
I think that this is just pure spin from Norquist. I think this is absolutely not the case. John McCain has now ceased being John McCain the man. He's now John McCain Incorporated. And the job of John McCain Incorporated is to get a Republican into the White House. And the Republican machine will gear up into figuring out how they need to do that. That involves mobilizing the base the way that they did under George W. Bush. That involves, trying to win crossover voters the way they have from time to time in elections. But they're going to proceed with every strategy all at once in terms of trying to maximize his vote. He's not going to be allowed, even if he personally wanted to, he is not going to be allowed to write off any Republican constituency in pursuing this. In this kind of a year, he's going to need every Republican he can get, left, right, and center.
Rachel Maddow of Air America at MSNBC. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Keith.